Didn't make it to church? That's okay. I've got a word for you. Welcome back to Christ Culture, the podcast. I am Calvin, and thank you for your support, for listening and watching. Make sure you send this to a friend today. Like, comment, and subscribe on this material. And if you wish to send a donation, you can go to the website and send a donation. That link will be in the description for you. But thank you for all of your support. And as always, I want to jump right into the message today, right into the word. I've got a word for you. And today you're going to get to be a movie star. You're going to be the star of your own movie. The movie is going to be your life. Every day and every moment in your life is going to be like a different scene. And we're going to talk about that in just a moment. But I want to start talking about David. Now, we all know David. We know King David. We know about David and Goliath. And we're going to discuss David and Goliath a little bit, but kind of from a different perspective. So we all know that David was a shepherd, and at the time that Goliath was about, David was actually in the field tending to the sheep. Now, all of his brothers were all off at war with King Saul, and they were in a standoff with the Philistines. The Philistines are where Goliath was. And every day for 40 plus days, Goliath was coming out, giving his big speech about how he could beat anybody and they should send out their best warrior to fight him. And if they could kill him, then they would win the war. So one day, David's father sends him to the front lines to find his brothers and to take him some food. And David gets there and he hears Goliath talking. And he hears him giving a speech. And eventually David comes to the conclusion like, hey, I'm going to go out and I'm going to fight Goliath since nobody else is going to do it. And at first King Saul's like, hey, I don't think you should do that. Look how big he is. He's been fighting his whole life and you're just a young man. And David's like, I've killed lions, I've killed bears, I can kill Goliath. And so we all know the rest of the story. He grabs the slingshot, gets the Goliath down, and then he slays him. And he wins. But I want to talk to you from this perspective. I want you to imagine that you are one of those soldiers standing around hearing David talk about the fact that he's about to fight Goliath. How would you feel? What would you think about David in that moment? Based on the way that David was living his life at that moment, how he was acting, what conclusion would you draw? I know if it was me, I would draw the conclusion like, he must know God. He must really believe that God is on his side. He must really have God on his side. Based on how he was acting, I would come to the conclusion that he was trying to live his life in a godly manner and that he truly had a relationship with God. He trusted God. He talked to God, and that God was on his side. And that's the first question that I want us to get into today. We're going to answer a few questions based on the movie that is your life. And the first question that we're going to talk about is, if somebody were examining your life in those situations where you find others around you, they're watching you, they can see you on a daily basis, the way you're living, the things that you're doing, what conclusion would they draw about you? Would they draw the conclusion that you are a believer, that you are trying to live your life in a Christ-like manner? Will they draw the conclusion that you are in the world and of the world? How are you acting on a daily basis, and what conclusion would others draw based on what they are seeing? So in those tough situations, are you cursing and yelling and acting out of character? Are you going to work on a daily basis and being mean and nasty to other people and not wanting to be bothered? Or are you trying your best to help others on a daily basis, trying to live with integrity, trying to be the best version of yourself? Which version of you do people see? And based on what they see, what conclusion would they draw about you? Because the truth of the matter is we should all be living our life in a way that as a believer, others can see that there is something different about us. And in other moments in David's life, there weren't a lot of people around. In fact, he found himself alone a couple of times, and I want to talk about that. One of those times was when he was actually running from King Saul. He found himself alone in a cave. And I wanted to know what he did when he was alone. So I was reading about it. He actually wrote some Psalms while he was alone in this cave. And in Psalm 142, he actually cried out to God and told him the situation that he was in and how bad it was and how he needed God's help. And this was interesting to me because in this moment where David found himself alone, he spent that alone time seeking God. He spent that alone time talking to God. He spent that alone time in the presence of God. And that's often what we should do. And that's how we should live our lives, even when others are not around. But at another moment in David's life where he found himself alone, he was on his balcony and he actually saw a woman. Now, in this moment of his aloneness, he decided to do something mischievous. And he ended up sending for this woman and sleeping with her. But this was the wife of another man. So in this situation where David found himself alone, he did something that he shouldn't do. And that's the second question that I want us to examine today is, how do we act when we are alone? when others are not watching, when others are not around? Are you still living with that integrity? And that's the way that we should live. We should live with integrity, whether people are around or they're not around. And those are the two things that I want us to ponder in the life that is your movie today, or the movie that is your life today. What are you acting like when others are looking, and what are you acting like when others are not looking? Because the truth of the matter is, in both situations, you should be acting in a Christ-like manner. You should be trying to be the best version of yourself, live with integrity, and to do the right things regardless of who's looking and who's not. But oftentimes we don't do that, and we find ourselves making poor decisions because we think others are not around. We should be living in a way that when others look at you and they see your aura, they should be asking questions. What's different about that person? Something's different about them. The way they talk, the way they carry themselves is different. And that's what I want us to get out of this message today, is just to simply live with integrity, regardless if others are around, regardless if others are looking or not looking. Think about your life like a movie, and others are watching those scenes. And then the last question that I want us to just talk about just for a moment. Let's say God got bored one day and he decided he was going to watch the movie that is your life up until the point you're at now. After watching the movie, would God come to the conclusion that you love him? Or would he come to the conclusion that you only go to him when you're in need? That you only go to him when you want something? What conclusion would God draw based off the movie that is your life? And I want you to think about that. And if you find yourself saying, hey, if others are watching the movie that is my life, or if God was watching the movie that is my life, there'll be some moments where they may not know I'm a believer. They may not know I'm trying to live my Christ-like life. Then maybe you should change some things. Maybe you should change how you act in those situations and the things that you are doing. So that's not the case. So going forward from this day on, I just want you to think about that. Think about God watching your life like a movie and wanting to be pleasing in his sight and do the right thing and do the things that he's calling you to do and living a Christ-like life. I want to tell you about a time where I had to do that in my own life. And it actually came during one of the games I was coaching. Now, on the other side, there was a coach, and he was derogatory, and he was yelling, and he was being nasty to the parents, the players, the referees. He was doing all types of things. He was saying things directed at me, directed at my players, accusing my players of things. And I wanted to say some things, and I wanted to put him in his place, and I wanted to get him straight. But I looked around and I realized my players were watching me. I realized his players were watching me. I realized parents were watching me, and I realized God was watching me. And I didn't want to do anything that would reflect that I wasn't someone who served God and was trying to live a Christ-like life. I don't want to do anything out of character in that moment. So I chose to watch my tongue. I chose to watch my tone and my demeanor during that time. And after the game, we end up losing the game, and we're shaking hands and we walk off the field. And one of the parents from the other team comes up to me. Now, at this moment, I'm upset because I'm talking to God and I'm like, I did the right things. I said the right things. I acted the right way. And I'm on the losing end of things. And one of the players from or the parents from the other team, rather, they come up to me after the game and they say, Coach, I just wanted to let you know the way that you carry yourself, the way that you speak to your players, the way that you acted during the game, it was classy. And we just wanted to say thank you for being that way. Thank you for treating the kids that way. Now, this is a parent from the opposing team coming to tell me that. And in that moment, God was reminding me, I'm always watching that movie that is your life. And I'm always proud of you when you choose to do the right things, because that's what I'm leading you to do. And so I just wanted to share that story and let you know that even in the toughest moments, even if it feels like you're losing by doing that, you're not, because you're winning with God, and that's what matters. Now let's go ahead and get into some questions for today. First question, why is it important to live with integrity even when no one is watching? Now that's kind of what we talked about today, and this reminds me of another situation with a player that I'm coaching. Here recently we had a game where we were winning by a lot of points, and he decided he wanted to get out of character and to do some things that were outside of the norm and, what he's coached to do and how he normally plays. And I pulled him out of the game and I told him, you don't want to do that. Always play the way you know how to play, the way that you were coached to play. Play with integrity, play the right way all the time, regardless of the situation. Because in those moments where you begin to develop those bad habits, at some point they start to leak into your character and they start to become who you are. And then in those moments where you're trying to turn that light switch and you're trying to do the right things, those bad habits are lingering and it's hard to get rid of them. So even in those moments where you're by yourself, maybe no one's looking, you should still try to do the right thing, because that's what you want your character to be. You don't want to have this light switch that you're trying to turn on and off to be a good person and to be a mischievous person behind closed doors. So do the right things regardless. Let's see. Next question is, what are some small ways we can show God's love in our daily behavior? The number one thing that comes to mind is to simply be kind. Be kind to others on a daily basis. Show them love as much as possible. Carry yourself in a way that says, I care about others, not just myself. Say hello to people when they speak to you. Don't give people mean faces and just walk around unapproachable. Don't go to work and be nasty with other individuals. Have an aura about you that says, hey, I'm a follower of Christ. I love people. I love each and every one of you. And simply be kind to them. That's the number one thing I can say that we can do on a daily basis to show that we love God and that we follow God. How can we be a witness for Christ without preaching at people? That's a really good question, because everybody can't handle that and everybody doesn't want that. And that's a turnoff for a lot of people. When people come at them and they're holier than thou and it's all about this scripture and that scripture and do this and don't do that, that's not often the way that we should go about doing it. And I think the best thing that we can do is just live your life in a way that's Christ-like. Have people look at you and say, hey, what's different about them? Why do they act the way that they do? How are they able to keep their head up and live with integrity and try to do the right things at all time? And they're kind and they love other people and they're always trying to help me and do things. Have people look at your life and want to ask questions about why you are the way that you are. And when you do that, that's going to lead them on their own to that question is, who is this God that this person serves? Because I see how they live their life and I see how they are and I see the things that they do on a daily basis. And it makes me want to ask the question, who is this God? So live your life like that and allow them to get to that question themselves without trying to preach to them and force things up on them, because oftentimes that's not going to be received well. Welcome to the next segment, The Perfect Brew, where we try to create that perfect brew just for you, that tailored response directly to what you're going through and you're dealing with in your life, kind of like that perfect drink that you go get for yourself. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and read today's order. It says, I've been a Christian for a long time, but lately I feel really disconnected from God. I still go to church, I still pray, but it feels dry, like I'm just going through the motions. I haven't told anyone because I don't want them to think I'm losing my faith. Is this normal? How do I get back to feeling close to God again? The first thing I want to tell you is that God is always close. Even if you don't feel close to him, he is still close to you. He's not going to leave you, and he's not going to forsake you. So just know that he's always there with you. The other thing that kind of comes to mind is the scripture in Ephesians about it's not by works or deeds that we're saved. It's by his grace that we are saved. So when you talk about going through the motions, I don't ever want you to think that it's the things that you do that are going to get you there. We can never do enough things for God to please him. It's not by the works. That's how he designed it. It's by his grace that we are saved. So in this season, I don't want you to worry about those things that you call going through the motions, in just those routine things that you do, because God is not concerned with those things. God is more concerned with your relationship with him. So think about your relationships in your life. Every relationship looks different, right? With your mother, your father, your siblings, your friends, it looks different. Each one has their own inside jokes. Each one has their own languages. Each one has things that you do with each individual person. And in this season, I think that's what you should focus on, is your individual relationship with God. What are those things between you and God? What are those inside jokes? What are those things that, God can say to you and you can say to God that's just between you two? Develop a relationship with him. Maybe that's every Saturday morning you go sit in a corner at your favorite coffee shop and read a scripture. That's that intimate time between you and God. Maybe on your way to work in the morning, there's a certain song that you listen to get your spirit right in the morning. find those things in this season that are unique to your relationship with God and lean into those. That's how you're going to start to feel close to him again, talk to him again, have that personal relationship with him again, and not just do those things that are going through the motions and doing those things that we think we should be doing just because we've seen others do them in our lives. So I hope that was the perfect brew just for you. I hope that helps you. And again, if you want to be featured on this segment, make sure you send us a DM, a comment, a message, however you want to. Let us know what you're going through in your life, and we will feature you on this segment. Welcome to our final segment. This is Subject on the Spot, where I will be giving a random topic in 60 seconds to come up with a little message on it. So I'm going to pull up an app to give us a random topic for today. And today's topic is colleges. So we're going to talk about college today. I'm going to pull up a timer and get started in 3, 2, 1, go. When we go to college, oftentimes we are focused on many different things that we're not supposed to be focused on. We're focused on friends, and we're focused on parties, and we're focused on basketball games and football games and doing things and traveling and going places. And oftentimes we forget why we're actually there. We're actually there to learn, to grow, to develop. There are teachers and professors there to help us in doing this. And this is the same thing in life. Oftentimes we can get our eyes off the prize, and we're so focused on doing things that pleases our flesh and that we want to do that we forget that God is here as a professor to help us to grow and to learn and to lead good lives. So in this season, I think that we should not worry so much about the parties and the things that bring us all of this fleshly joy, but get back to focusing on God and the fact that he's trying to teach us and help us to grow and to become better versions of ourselves. And just like that, another episode is in the books. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your support. It means the world. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe on this material. Do me a favor, send this to somebody else right now so that they can watch it or listen as well. And I will see you next week, same time, same place.